You're on the couch, tripping with Dr. Pete.
Hey everybody, good morning. You're rocking with Dr.
Morning.
and Queen. We're talking about dealing with loss today, death and dying, love and life. We're gonna talk a little bit about some things. I have some losses in the family. It's been on my mind, on my spirit to kind of talk to whoever is also going through it. It's been a season of loss. A lot of people have experienced significant loss. And some people, again, this is not therapy, and so I always have to make that disclaimer. This is not a substitute for therapy, but a lot of people are dealing with losses, major losses. Whether it could be anything. I mean, it could be loss of relationship. It could be loss. The process is the same, but there's a lot of loss of loved ones.
Mm-hmm.
People are dying unexpectedly with COVID, and friends just gone abruptly. And so this is going to be a little bit of a difficult conversation for some, but hopefully we just kind of get through it together. I think that's part of what I've come to understand is an important part of dealing with loss is really building your community that helps you cope. So let's go through.
Dr. Penny, all my messages are essential and contribute quite a lot to the Froggy.
Yeah, they are essential, man. Yo, Bilko, you know what's funny? People have been calling me Dr. Petty, you son of a bitch. Yeah. This lady came in and she said Dr. Petty or Dr. Pete. Like, she was dead serious. She didn't plan it, as a matter of fact. She didn't have shit to say. She didn't even say like I'm joking. She was dead serious. Yeah.
Before I go, I tried to listen, but I just realized what time it was. I see the shark baby. Just to speak some life into you guys' day. Okay, I see Blippy. I see him. Peace, love, and light to you both on this beautiful Tuesday. Remember, you are worthy of love, and everything that you deserve will come to you. Peace out, Girl Scouts.
Bye, Trixie. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, for sure.
Much love to your babies.
I'll read this that kind of stood for me. It says, grief is the last act of love that we have to give to those that we loved. Where there was deep grief, there was great love. What do you think?
I think that's very true. It's also difficult, right? Like, it's like how do you measure that? It's like you have to get through this process, and that makes you feel guilty if you don't fully get into that, right? Like, fully feel what that is.
Tell me what you mean. Like, and I think that's good that you're saying that, because I think a lot of people talk about just not really being sure. Like, sometimes they'll have varied feelings, like they don't want to cry or they don't want to feel it. They just struggle with their emotions around around loss.
Yeah.
And they feel like they're supposed to grieve a certain way. Is that
troublesome? What you mean? That's exactly what I mean. It's difficult when you see other people and how they're dealing with it, and you compare it, because and that's the thing. Like, grief looks different to everybody, so there is no way to do that. You just gotta feel it.
It's so huge. I mean, to understand that piece alone, and it's such a process, that you will be kind of experiencing in some ways throughout your life, and sometimes in the beginning, a lot of people won't cry. A lot of my patients just struggle to feel, and they're like, I know I have to feel it. But first, two things. One, a lot of times they have already been grieving, so they've been sad for a while, and whether it's a terminal issue, like someone has been dying for a while, or even with loss in a relationship, folks, like, the relationship has been over, you know what I mean? And so they're kind of like, why am I not as sad right now? And there's a whole bunch of reasons for that. I mean, some have to do with the circumstances, and I think others have to do with, like, what they can handle in that moment. Sometimes they don't grieve because it's just too much to grieve and to be able to function,
Time is a big thing too. Being aware of how long that's supposed to be, or how long are you supposed to grieve for?
Yeah, and the other thing that's crazy, right? So they have like these marks, and I'm not even going to mention the marks that are in like the DSM, because I mean, you could look them up if you want, but I don't like how they have time frames for bereavement, like, you know, a certain amount of months, or I think it's just bullshit, you know. And the reason why I'm not going to mention it, because I don't really want, I think it doesn't matter. You have your own experience,
Right.
and I think getting away from like trying to identify, is there something wrong with me because I still feel sad? No, I mean, that's how much you love the person, you know.
Or is there something wrong with me because I'm not feeling
right? So we're talking today about loss, for whoever's just coming in, and we're talking about you know, coping with loss of love, loss of, you know, through either death or even loss of a relationship. You know, we're talking about that experience and how it impacts us. How do we push through it? How do we, you know, how are we changed by it? So you're free to tell me anything that you want, and we're just here to listen and kind of process with you.
Dealing with loss, man. Dr. Pete, this is a good question. It's something I never really had to deal with up close.
Yeah.
Luckily, I haven't had someone within my close-knit vicinity pass. I have a friend who's currently doing a lot of time in prison at the moment, and he was like my brother. He was my best friend. So he's not dead, but you know, he's gone. He's gonna be gone for so much time, and he's not gonna be the same person, you know, on the day I see him again. So in terms of death, I haven't really had that, and I don't know. I look at life very different than a lot of people. So even if someone close to me dies, I don't think I'll have. Of course, you know, emotional and things of that nature, but I think I'll be ready to revel in their life more than missing them, if that makes sense.
Right. That's you know, that's the ideal, right? The ideal is to be able to keep the mind in the place of, you know, positive memory and gratitude for the life that you've shared, for the times that you shared, to celebrate their spirit, their memory, you know, that's the goal, right? But I think sometimes you can feel a void when you lose someone, that in that void is hard to fill, because it's about them and how much they meant to you. You know, they were a support for you, they were strength for you, and where in their absence you feel it, and there's nothing you do, because you're always thinking about the fact that you can't have that level of love again. You know, love is love is cultivated, love is curated. Like, it takes, you know, you choose who you're going to have in your life sometimes, and then the people who are not, you know, your family, who are not chosen, you know, you go through so much with them, right? Like good, bad, crazy, and the love that you build is so special, because especially with family, because it is through good or bad, right? And family knows you, those loved ones, they know you in ways that no one else knows you. They know qualities of yours, like things that you've done that are great, like that make you a great person. Only that person knows. And you lose that person and all of their memories of you, which is weird, right? Because we're talking about all the things that you lose when you lose a person.
Dealing with losses. But that's a touchy subject right there. I like the vibe. I like how y'all coming with this one. Man, I done dealt with so many losses, from losing money to losing a loved one. So, you know, if I hear something that I can relate to, I'm gonna tap in. But it's la 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 la. It's the game. So make sure that y'all poke my face and y'all hit that yellow bar under my name. Hey, Queen Honey. What's up, askdrpete? Hope y'all having a great broadcast.
Good morning.
Good morning, Tribe. Yeah, so they've changed the model now to following queen. So you better get worried about people following you.
I don't care about them boards.
Queen, solicit people to follow you. Jesus Christ. Everybody follow Queen. You don't have to follow Dr. B, but follow Queen. She's all she thinks about is follow, clap,
No.
clap. That is the farthest thing from Queen's mind. She hates the system. She's like a rebel. She's like, I don't care how many listeners we have. I'm like, all right. She's like, fuck the leaderboards. I'm like, okay, Queen. I said, we should check the message. Fuck the bubbles. We're present. We're in the moment. Let's pop some bubbles and then we'll get back to talking. We're talking about loss today. And yeah, he mentioned and they mentioned sometimes, I just wanted to say quick about what Facts stated. Sometimes it's not even about like loss where you have lost someone. But the thing is, if you have anyone in your life, you're likely to, this is not something you can get out of this life without experiencing. If you've loved, you're likely to lose love at some point, whether it's through relationship, like I said, through death, loss of relationship, loss of death. Like my man
loss
said,
of a job.
He said it, yeah, loss of a job, loss of money, and it impacts us. Now they all impact us differently, and we can talk about it. You can talk about it. Your examples of loss, your experiences of loss. You 8 folks, feel free to leave us messages about it. But each thing impacts you differently. Like the loss of a job is like a loss of self-esteem, like directly. You start to question yourself. Like, am I okay? Am I gonna be okay? These become real questions.
Yeah.
Like when I really think about it, guys, it's kind of like I love like Eastern ideals of life, right? And like I said in my previous message, is like when someone dies, to me, it's kind of like, I think we tend to spend so much time grieving because we miss them, and almost like it's almost selfish. And I know that might be, tough for a lot of people to hear that have lost people, and I'm sorry about that, but I think it's like because we might have needed that person, or we had so many feelings tied up in them, or things of that nature. It's like we forget that there were so many good times and so many so many memories that were able to be built up over that time. And if we spent more time reveling in that, I think we would be able to deal with loss a lot better. Plus billions are made off of death, so that's wild.
Well, that's why we're having the conversation, Facts. We're looking to make our billions right here, right now. I don't know what he means. I'm just kidding, but I don't know what he means by they make money. I guess it is an industry. Yeah, like fucking funerals. It's like $8,000 to bury somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know that?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you have stories of loss? Do you have experiences of loss in your life?
Well, so yeah, I lost a sibling exactly around this time last year to an overdose, and I lost my grandfather the year prior, and then so yeah, definitely it's a struggle. It's a you asked about the money thing, so that even creates even more. It's like you can't even focus on grieving because you're trying to bury someone. Like the whole thing it's dark, it's like you can't even if you wanted to just celebrate their life, all of the things that are going on, grieving yourself, consoling your family, consoling friends, and trying to organize and stuff. That was the first time I've experienced it in that way. But yeah, that was a lot. It was a lot to deal with.
Yeah. I'm sorry for your losses.
Thank you. I appreciate that. But that's why I spoke on the time thing and that how you grieve thing, because that was a personal thing for me, is because I had to be so on for my mom and take over planning the funeral.
Right.
It took away from me being able to just grieve my baby sister, like just really like go through it. I had to like, and I'm a mom as well, so like I had to like, just not turn it off, but I had to like zone in and focus on the task at hand. And when it was over, I didn't want anything to do with as far as in talking about it, because it was just like, it was heavy. But I do know from being a child and dealing with like losses that when you don't deal with it at all, it gets fucked up. So I did have my moments where I would be like, okay, now I'm by myself. Let me look at pictures of her. Let me feel this. And then, get through that for this moment. And then I got to get back to what I got to do. But I lost my father when I was 16. And because I didn't deal with it, I thought he was still alive. Like, it took me years to really come to grips with he's no longer here. It took, like, it really fucked with me. Not going to his funeral, not seeing his body, and just pretending like it didn't happen, kind of. Like, not consciously, but subconsciously. It went on for like a few years.
Yeah. And that's a thing that's totally like, it's a protective mechanism. Like, so it's like actually a healthy thing to do. And people, want to kind of look at it. And if you think about it outside of the experience, you may question it. Like, is that okay? That, and I think it sounds to me like whatever understanding you've had, you've come to learn that you have your own process, and you can forgive yourself for it. You can accept it. You must embrace your own experience, because your psyche was set up to protect you. You were not ready to deal with it when it happened. And I'm not doing analysis, but I'm just saying, like it while looking back on, you may say that you were fucked up by, because that's what you said. You said I was fucked up by it, but your being kind of, it really kind of kept you, because otherwise you don't know how fucked up you might have been.
Right, exactly.
You really don't. You really don't.
It's crazy how your body and your mind take care of each other, right? Like, it's
right.
Yeah, definitely, I agree with that. And I think that the earlier you experience heavy loss, not to say it trains you for it, but it kind of like sets this thing. Like, the first loss I can remember in my life is my uncle, and I went to that funeral, seen all emotion, felt all that at a very young age, and from that day I was like, I will never go to a funeral again in my life. And I stuck with that. And I'm not saying that it's something that I don't think anybody else should do, because I understand everybody has their process, but for me, I knew like that's just not the way I want to experience this. But
and so it becomes, you become very clear that you have your approach. And I think we each do. Some people have, like, they use humor. Like I say to people all the time, I think like the one thing that I've gotten in terms of embracing your process, I said, it's like, cry when you have to, laugh when you can, and just accept your process. Because some people, right, like, they won't let themselves cry, if they won't let themselves laugh, right? And I think it's really important to give yourself permission to like laughing is therapeutically breaking up the sadness. And people feel guilty, like there's nothing funny about this moment, and there isn't anything funny about this moment. But if that's what helps you to be okay for just another moment, if it gives you a break, a respite from the pain, you've got to embrace it. You've got to allow your process.
It's unique to you.
Yeah. You queen, I'm really, we just met on here. Obviously, that. I mean, for the listeners, I think it's important the listeners know. And we had not really talked about this topic because, and I didn't know, about your losses. And so I really appreciate you being able to kind of like process this with us. And, of course, you choose to talk about what you're comfortable with. And we're not going to be on here all day today, I just wanted to kind of get in and talk a little bit about it. Let's pop a bubble and we'll come back.
Thank you.
My mother passed away 2 years ago, and for me, one of the hardest things was being able to laugh. I felt guilty, laughing and being happy again with my mother gone. That was a learning experience in itself.
Wow. I feel like the universe is like putting this conversation together perfectly, right?
Yeah, sorry
we
for
were,
your loss.
yeah, we were just talking about laughing and loss, and I am sorry also for your loss.
Mm-hmm.
Losing your mother, and my mother is still here. Losing a parent, like you have, devastating, because there's this assumption in our beings, like it's just an assumption that we're going to bury our parents, but it's not going to happen until we're old. And we know that. I mean, we can say it's probably less traumatic to lose a parent than it is to lose a child. I don't know if there's a ranking system, but because you never expect to lose a child, and I have had people who've lost children, and I can't even understand how they continue on.
Yeah.
But losing a parent, it's what I've seen, and you tell me what you think, Queen. What I've seen is, the younger you are, it stays with you, but you adjust differently. The older you are, the harder it is to let them go, because they're it's like the parent, like it's almost like they expect to be there forever. It's a weird dynamic. You would think that if you had them for a long time, then it's less painful to lose them, because you're like, okay, I've had them for a long time. But it's not. You've had them for a long time, and there's pain there too. So it's just different.
Yeah, it varies across the board, definitely. Because I was 16 when my dad passed away, and like I said, I explained what kind of grieving situation I went through, kind of not facing the reality of it. But I think another, I can't really call what the emotion is like, well, damn, all these experiences that he should have been here for, he's not here for.
Right.
But I can agree with you that when they are there for those experiences, that's a challenge on top of a challenge. Like my grandfather, who died at 94, the year before last, that was harder than I thought it was going to be in the moment.
Right.
I've come to terms, but in the moment, I was just like, he was old and he was already breaking down, kind of, and in and out of the nursing homes and all that. We were all prepared for what was going to happen. But I remember when I went home, because he passed away in Virginia, so I went down there with my kids and all that, and then I came back to Mass, and please nobody judge me on this, and I'm not laughing because it's funny. I'm laughing because it might be awkward to other people to hear. I slept with my grandfather's ashes. Like I don't even understand why I did it. I just was like, I just started going through all my memories, because he's been there my whole life. Yeah. So like it was just it's a different experience, because it's like there's no memories without this person at all. You know. Right. So it's different.
You're touching on it. You're definitely. I mean, that's exactly what I'm saying. I think that it's just different, and so I think that's one of the things too. Like there's dynamics where you lose a person who is your parent or a loved one, like a family member who you were estranged from, and that has its own experience, right? Because it's like. And when I say estranged, meaning like you just couldn't, you had very minimal contact with the person. Right. And the reason why that happens a lot is so complex in life that it's almost like you can't bear that person in life, but you still love them. And so to lose them, you also lose in some ways the opportunity to ever repair. Right. And which is a really difficult experience. And we have listeners. We don't have a lot of bubbles today, so you're please welcome to go ahead and join in. We really appreciate your stories. We appreciate your thoughts as we're talking. We're thankful for your contribution in our conversation. It means a lot.
Okay, so I'm super tough most of the time, but my loss has been great. Like not great in the sense of yay, but great in the sense of a lot.
Yeah.
It started a long time ago. With everybody, it starts a long time ago, but I don't even think I'd be able to have enough time within this minute to give you my three greatest losses. But yeah.
Appreciate you for being here, Aries.
Yeah. Aries, you have as many minutes as you'd like. I mean, it seems like we have a small group and we're able to talk, each of us. And so, Yeah. You know, the gentleman before who was talking about laughing, and I'm sure he's still with us. You know, sometimes the most bubbly of personalities, if you just peel back a couple layers, there's a lot of pain there, a lot of loss, and that is the best part of, like, that's how we cope. That's how we get through it, is we kind of laugh it through. And you know, Aries has such a bright personality. Typically, you know, sometimes people, they underestimate the fact that just because we're bright, just because we're beautiful, you know, doesn't mean that we
We're
haven't gone.
strong.
Yeah, we are strong.
You're
We've gone
absolutely
through
correct.
some things, you know. Say again.
No, I say you're absolutely correct, because not the bubbly so much, but I've had therapists tell me in sessions, like, they'll get emotional from me talking through, like, my story and, like, my life, and they'll be like, oh, you talk about it so matter-of-factly, like almost as if you're removed. And I think it speaks to what you're saying too. Like, it's just like, you know, even the strongest people, they just have a lot that they're carrying. If you peel that back, that just made me think of that.
Yeah. And you know, and the other thing, right? You know, I've had patients who struggle because they can't quite grieve all at one time, or still just feel how the loss and how much it's impacted them, and they miss that person, and they're just devastated by it. We have to keep functioning, right? And so it kind of creates almost like an emotional clutter, what they would say in psychology, right? Like there's this pain that we try to push down, and so we can deal with what's on our plate in terms of just, you know, surviving, moving on. You know, it's difficult enough to survive when everything's okay, but you know, having that loss aching your heart, aching your emotions, it becomes impossible to focus. So in some ways, to survive, like, we have to push it down. Yeah, like, what do they give you, a week off of work? I mean, maybe depending on where you work, you know. So you're back to this grind and this demand on your psyche, and now you're carrying this extra load very privately, you know. And they tell you, you know, there's great support groups, and there's great therapists, but you know, when people come to me, and I think that's important that everybody go out and get therapy and you know, get support, whether it's support groups or friends, because that's the other thing too, is you kind of, it's complex because you're not ready to talk about it with strangers. Like, I want to talk about this with somebody I don't even fucking know, right? Like, you know, but then you talk to family and you can't really bring it up because everybody's in pain. It's just, it can become very lonely. Am I making any sense?
You're making absolute sense, definitely.
Yeah.
That's kind of been my thing with my mom in regards to my sister.
God bless your mom. I hope her heart just becomes a little bit stronger every day to be able to deal with it, because I'm sure she just still feels it as you do, you know. It's not something you ever get over.
Not normal.
Yeah, it changes you too, loss. It really does. Yeah. You know, I think I was thinking about when you were talking about being strong for folks. I remember when my uncle passed away of ALS, which is this really debilitating disease that it basically, you know, your body deteriorates from the outside in, and it's like all the way up to your brain. So your brain is okay, so you just are experiencing like everything shut down bit by bit, and it's really horrible. Lou Gehrig's disease. It's rare, but it's not super rare, right? And so my uncle died of that. And in the beginning of the process, because it can be a slow process or it can be a really fast process, but in the beginning of the process, I was like very supportive, you know, like, because, you know, I'm kind of the therapist of the family, you know, so I'm talking to everybody and, like, you know, kind of being present for them. And they would come, and even, you know, he and my uncle and his wife, my aunt, they would come and, you know, stop in town when they go to the doctors, and they just kind of like talking to me, right? I guess because, you know, I'd be doing my thing, and then at one point when he got really sick, I went to visit and I broke down, and I cried, and that was the last time that they kind of I guess at that moment they just thought I was no longer strong or capable of being strong. And I kind of felt like it wasn't fair, to be honest, but that's how complex it is for everybody. Like there's no one, it can feel so lonely. You can't put your grief on anyone. You don't want to have other people be in pain. And I gotta say, I think that that's a mistake. I think we should all be able, and it's just my opinion, it's just a kind of from my life experience, I want to be able to cry with my loved ones when it's appropriate, right? Like I don't want to make my feelings more important than their feelings, right? But I feel like we should be able to mourn together and then be strong together, right? So yeah.
I agree with you. I definitely agree with you. And still be able to bounce back and forth with that, like,
right,
whether we're on each other's shoulders or you're on mine or I'm on yours, being able to just, yeah.
I want to talk when we come back. I want to hit a couple bubbles and I want to talk about just a little bit of the process, but let's go through some bubbles and we'll talk.
Good morning, guys. Just coming through, listening to your chat. Hope you're having a good morning. Have a good day.
Thanks, Trulicity. One of my soul sisters. I love Trulicity. I think she's phenomenal. She's very cool. We haven't had enough time to connect on this thing, so you've been taking up all my time, honey. I don't know what's up with that. the sisters on the stereo don't like that. I think they said share the brother. You know what I mean?
What's good? What's poppin'? What's happening? What's up? It's the kid from Philly, the always so bossy, ever so frosty, Mr. XOXO Vinny Blanco, wishing my loves and askdrpete. Queen honey, y'all already know what it is. All of the light, love, and positivity and energy I possibly can muster up on this Tuesday morning. My morning show got canceled today. So I have the lovely privilege of just enjoying you guys and really getting to send support, show ass in the comment section, all of that great stuff. So I'm doing that in hopes that others will do their part. My heater in my house went out and I am freezing. So if I sound like I'm like all over the places because I am literally trembling right now, trying to warm up. But I'll be here for a while, you guys, so make sure that y'all get back at the kid. Giddy!
Love you, Vinny. Love you.
Yo, we should have probably put loss of heat on there. Is that right? I know you came in with charge, and we're talking about a pretty solemn thing, and everybody's having this, but it's always good to have energy pops in.
Positive, right?
Yeah, when you're like, you ever get that guy, like it's that family member at the funeral who's like cracking jokes and shit, like, and you're kind of looking at him like he's a little bit of an asshole, but he's like super necessary, right? Like, cause he's kind of keeping everybody like, making everybody break the energy. Right. I think that the OGs of loss know how to do that well. They'll come in with the right amount of good energy, yeah. So we're talking about loss. We're talking about death and dying. We're talking about, loss of love, loss of any kind, really. Letting go, and holding on at the same time, because that's the process, right? It's like you have to let go of someone, but you also you want to maintain as much of them, as you can through memory. That's one area that I think is always important or kind of tricky. And please, we'd love to have more of you give us your thoughts, your feelings, just any perspective that you might add. We have plenty of space. It's a small group. We're going to keep it small for a while until it gets bigger. So this is your chance to get on the comment board. So one of the things I think, and my mind went around the mulberry bush here, but it's both and, right? And so what happens whenever you have a major sadness that you have to embrace, we tend to be like so fearful of kind of coming into contact with it. And the reason why is because we feel like it will be endless, like there will be no end to it. And so so there becomes a fear that's on top of the pain. It's a fear of the pain.
Mm-hmm.
And this kind of keeps the pain unable to be effectively processed, because we kind of have in our imagination, or kind of our thinking, that if I embrace this sadness, I'm not going to be able to come out of it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go into a deep depression, a well of sadness. And now, mind you, this happens not just with loss. This happens with anyone who's dealing with sadness. They often put their sadness in a place that's like, I'm going to lock this in a safe. I'll come to it eventually, but not now, because if I really come into contact with it, I'm not going to be able to function.
Mm-hmm.
And they might be right, because, the reality is, the reason why people have breakdowns, the reason why people have what they call, nervous breakdowns, where they're like, they can't function, is typically because they've been carrying and packing away and denying themselves access to their difficult struggle, and just adding layer and layer of stress, this high performance stress that we experience from pushing ourselves every day to the limit to meet all the requirements for life.
Mm-hmm.
And then at some point, whether you decide to come into contact with this stuff or not, you just fucking break down.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're just done. You're like, I'm it's over. And you don't really have choice in it. But the thing that I guess what I want to share, and the reason why I'm kind of putting it in these terms, is I think people need to know a breakdown is really it's like we talked about earlier, it's your body telling you, good. Like, I don't care what you think, but we all know, because we're carrying it all. Subconsciously, we're carrying it all. You're done for now. Right? Like, you're like emotionally tapping out, like, pap, lay down, knock out, and heal. And what's crazy, Queen, and I want to hear your thoughts about this. What's crazy is, in the animal kingdom, like, that's what animals do. When they're sick, when they're wounded, they just go somewhere and they stop. They don't eat. And they just heal. And that's kind of sometimes what we all, like, we pathologize people who are like bedstruck with depression. We make it like, you got to get out of bed. You got to get out of bed. You got to get out of bed.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, they do got to get out of bed. But a part of why they are upset is because they're telling themselves they shouldn't be in bed. We shouldn't be down. You shouldn't be in a broken spot. Like, it's not okay.
Right.
And I guess what I'm telling you, and I'm telling, I guess my point is it is okay. And sometimes it's fucking necessary.
It is. I agree with you.
Yeah. The thing you don't need to do is and please let me know that you guys are getting what I'm saying. If you I never ask you to pump that button. But if you understand what I mean, if it resonates with you, if anything I'm saying resonates with you, you can just press clap just one time, just to let me know I'm kind of in your area. Yeah. So what I think is essential, right, is being able to recognize that you have the sadness, you have the pain, you have the depression, you have whatever's going on for you. That is the struggle, right?
Mm-hmm.
Don't confound the shit, or I should say, don't compound it with judgment of it.
Right.
Because we do that. You know what I'm talking about, Queen?
Mm-hmm.
Tell me, am I going too much now? I'm begging. I'm like, you're like, Queen's like, leave me the fuck alone. This shit is not the conversation I was looking to have this morning.
No, you're good. No, you're good. I'm just letting you speak.
Okay. All right. It is a real thing that we have this judgmental position on our mental health. Like, we're so hard on ourselves. And so, like, if we're anxious, we become anxious about our anxiety, compounding the anxiety.
Yes.
If we're sad, we become sad that we're sad, compounding the sadness. It's like, there's got to be a thing. And that's what I'm giving, as a doctor, I'm giving you permission to say to yourself, like, it's all right that I'm going through this season. is not going to last forever.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
And basically, I'm only prolonging and pushing and making it worse by doing the judgmental thing. And it's not your fault, even that you're doing the judgmental thing, because everything in society, a lot of social media, everything tells you should be fucking, Vinnie Blanco every day. This is, this is Dr. Pete. I'm feeling really good today, and everything's fucking great. And it doesn't. While I love Vinny, even Vinny will tell you, and I'm sure Vinny, if you wanted to comment, you feel free. Even Vinny will tell you he has his low days. You know what I'm saying? And that's like probably one of the higher energy brothers I know. Everybody has it, and that's not what we present. But if we have to be able to kind of keep our mind thinking like everybody is struggling.
Right. And everyone is human. Mm-hmm.
Everyone is human, and this shit is hard. Being an effective human, chasing your dreams, becoming the person that you want to be, it's filled with trials and tribulations, bumps along the way that, really kind of can be deeply traumatic. And you're trying to find a place for that trauma, for those losses, for the, for that pain, and still be present.
Mm-hmm.
Very difficult thing to do.
It is.
Yeah. I feel like we've had 8 listeners, and they've been kind of like right with me. Spirit she just sent me a message. She's saying her messages aren't going through, which makes me sad, because that's our girl. I'm gonna go ahead and press play.
Is it not going through?
Some loss is too great to see it any other way. It is kind of selfish of us to grieve, but sometimes you can't help it. Like in my situation, I lost my boyfriend young to gun violence. I lost 2 children at the same time, a day apart. I lost my mother and had to raise my sister. My father, I don't have anyone older than me in my family that is not a sibling. It's definitely, or a cousin. I'm sorry. Loss is great. It's not great, isn't good, but it's great. It's a lot, and it's there.
Thank you, Aries.
Your losses.
Yeah, we're sending you love. We appreciate you sharing.
Yes.
I know this is a really difficult talk, and I'm sure that people are kind of like coming to this talk and they're like, wait a minute, dealing with loss, death, like, whoa, it is hard to kind of even come into contact with some of this stuff, But again, I guess the message that I'm giving you is that this law, we all have it. We all are going through significant struggle and trying to put it in a place and be okay. I think one of the things that my man Fax was saying, which I agree with, and we may be not getting any messages because there's no more messages coming through. If anybody wants to send us a message, because a spirit has said she's not able to send us a message, maybe we need to think about how we do that. But if one of the things that happens, right, is that we kind of have it in our brain that, like, I think some of us, depending on your spirituality, are able to kind of stay a little more connected. Some of us that the idea of spirituality, like I was at a funeral just recently, and the pastor said, because we are Christians, we know that we believe and know that this is not the last time that we'll see this person. And that philosophy, that belief set is helpful, right? Like it lets you know that you can, your grief, your pain is temporary. And I like to believe that. I believe it, right? Mm-hmm. But I think there's also a spiritual kind of, if we went to a kind of a more pragmatic, or like if we went to a more, maybe even a secular understanding of spirituality, the fact is that if a person, by remembering their legacy, by remembering their being, by sharing their stories and bringing them and thinking about them fondly, you bring their spirit into the moment. You bring their spirit into the moment in a way where, you know, it can be difficult, because right after you think the good thought, you miss them again.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can learn to spend and really push your being to become more comfortable with bringing their energy into the moment, then you don't feel the loss. You feel the loss differently. Because sometimes you're losing, and I hope that I'm explaining it right, sometimes not only have you lost the person, but because you're not able to think about them without being in deep pain, and you're avoiding the pain, you've lost their memories as well.
Yeah, that's like that children's movie Coco. My kids watched the first one. I watched it with them, and even though it's obviously like an animation or whatever, the message that movie gives is kind of what you're speaking to. That, you know, this person passed away, and because they didn't make as much impact, or because people, you know, kind of moved on, their spirit kind of started to like deteriorate and go away.
Right.
And the message it gives was just like, you know, about celebrating their life continuously, because then, you know, they're still here.
Right.
Which is just that culture in general as well. Just they have the celebration of death almost. But that's why for me, I had to get through that moment of just like having those moments. And I printed and got more of my sister's pictures and kept it in person so that I could be able to, you know, constantly see her around. It brings me like sadness, but it also excuse me, allows me in like certain situations that are happening, I can look at her and I'm like, you know, I have a fond memory. I just look at her when I'm doing something silly, and I'm like, you know, I know what you would say if you were here.
Right.
So, right.
And I think that is a level of grief or bereavement, like a level of dealing with the loss. That is the level that allows for you to kind of live with the loss.
Mm-hmm.
Really important, and not an easy thing to do. I have something I want to read after the comment, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Hello. Are you able to get a message?
I am. Thanks, Grave. I appreciate that, brother.
So I just found out that Stereo, with their new update, I don't know if y'all have downloaded their new update or not. If you're sitting in the comments listening to a broadcast, if you don't send any reactions, they're not going to let you send a message. It's kind of like paying your way.
Really?
So if you want to send a message and you haven't sent reactions within the first 3 minutes of you listening to the thing, you need to exit out and then come back in, send some reactions, and then send your message.
That's
But you gotta remember,
bullshit.
stay on top of the reactions.
That's bullshit. What do I care if people react? I shouldn't complain. I guess they have a thinking that's beyond what I know, so we'll leave them to it. But
Well, I'm just scrolling to see if Spirit had any reactions in here, because she usually does.
She always does, right? Yeah. Look at Queen on her investigative skills. You know, Queen,
That's interesting.
I love you for a lot of reasons lately.
Thank you. I don't see any reaction from her, though, so maybe he's right.
You see what I'm saying, Spirited? We needed you to clap, damn it.
I think it's a touchy topic to clap on.
Right. Yeah, right. Like, yeah, loss of a loved one. Clap it up.
Fire.
Fire.
Thumbs up.
Oh my gosh.
Some of this loss, I'm gonna be 100 in here. I can't live. I mean, I'm living with, but I can't function with it sometimes.
Yeah.
Like I can't function when certain things from my losses hit me. Like.
Oh yeah.
I don't even, again, like even saying what I'm saying on here, it's probably gonna have my day in a whirlwind. I'm good, but it probably will.
Aries, we appreciate you, and
Yes.
if this feels too much, click out. Don't hang in. But I hope that I'll be able to say some things that'll be helpful in terms of passing information. Small things like conversations like this, they trigger a wave of grief. Like it can be anything. It could be a place that you always went, a smell, just even a song. Like you just kind of, all of a sudden you're like transported into this moment, and then everything is kind of like, it kind of crashes in that moment. And so it's really really tough. I want to read something, but I guess we have a couple comments. I'm gonna pop them. Queen, did you have anything that you wanted to add?
Yeah, for Aries, I wanted to tell her a similar thing. Like, definitely, if it gets too heavy, take a break, come back, or take time for yourself for that moment. But I wanted you to know, which we said at the beginning of this, is that we understand and we're here for you, and that this is a safe place to open up. Which is why, because it's heavy for me too. It's really heavy for me, but that's why I'm sharing it. I'm opening up because I'm trying to make sure that I'm giving that same thing back, that energy. You know what I mean? To be vulnerable, to allow you guys to know that your vulnerability can be trusted with me.
Yeah. The universe works in a certain way, and I believe that sometimes we need things that we don't anticipate happening, that happen by surprise, and hopefully this talk represents that for some folks. Hopefully folks are, something that we're talking about will come right on time for them and maybe helpful in a way of thinking about things. But our effort in this is really just giving space to something that I think on a day-to-day we struggle sometimes to give space to. So if you're hanging in there with us, we do appreciate it, and we know that this is not easy. So I'm almost like really glad that our group is small today, just because we're going to get a chance to hear from folks. I love it. I really do.
I was just talking to my mom about this. I was talking to her about like death or whatnot, because I had a brother that passed. We was like a year apart, and she never really recovered from it. Like, I'm still watching her. She suffers from depression. She's doing okay with it, but I was talking to her about it. I was like, do you think if culturally, if we dealt with death in a different way, is more of a celebration than a mourning? Like, of course everyone's gonna mourn, but if we dealt with it in a different way, more so as a celebration of a person transitioning, do you think it would be easier for us to learn how to handle death, I guess? I don't know.
Absolutely. I do think that our cultural philosophy is that reflective of avoidance, of really coming to talk about healthy ways of coping with death. That doesn't mean that it's going to be easy. She said it perfectly. Queen, you were about to say something?
Well, yeah, I was speaking to what she just said, and I was going to say it earlier, but I kind of forgot. I believe it's Nigeria, or no, it was Kenya, that one of my good friends, her close friend was from, like her best friend. And, she committed suicide, and the way that her family had for their culture, like to do it, was celebration of life. And I remember like finding that so dope, like, wow, like they really spend time celebrating this young woman's life. And don't make it such a dark thing. But then later on in life, I met someone else who was like Ghanaian, and they were telling me about how they even celebrate. He was like, we go into the night all the way to the day, and we just bring joy to the memory of this person's life. Like, we really make it a big thing. And I can't really think of any American people that I know that grieved in that, or like, grieved together in that way. So yeah, I think it's I think that our culture, American culture, that we should kind of like, I mean, not everybody probably will be on board because some people feel offended by this, but I think that they're offended because they're conditioned to think that we're not respecting this person's life if we're not sad all the time about it, when it's like that's not what the life that they lived with you, though. For the most part, like most of the time that you're missing is good memories, so celebrate those good memories and let them live on through memory, and all that. So yeah, I agree with you.
I'm a Q. I don't know if you know that, but I'm a Q, and we party. Like, that's kind of our thing. You know what I mean? Like, we're kind of experts in that area. We went to college for it, right? So I always tell everybody, like, it's my last will and testament that you motherfuckers set it out. Like, I want them partying, fucked up, drunk. Like, I want them stepping all night. Like, and when I go out, do not mourn for me. Like, rock out and make it so bad that, like, you won't let the sun go down without, sitting with each other like we used to. And that's how I want to be. I'll be there. I know I will. I want to read this thing, and then we're going to go into popping some bubbles. But I love this thing. Death is nothing at all. It doesn't count. I've slipped away into the next room. Nothing has happened. Everything remains exactly as it was. I am I, and you are you. And the old life that we live so fondly together is untouched and unchanged. Whatever we were to each other, we still are. Call me by my old familiar name. Speak of me in the easy way which you always used to. Put no difference in your tone. Wear no forced air of solemnity or sorrow. Laugh as we've always laughed at the little jokes that we enjoyed together. Play, smile, think of me. Pray for me. Let my name be forever a household word that it always was. Let it be spoken without effort, without the ghost of a shadow upon it. Let life mean all that it has ever meant. It is the same as it ever was. There is an absolute and unbroken continuity. What is death but a negligible accident? Why should I be out of mind because I am out of sight? I am but waiting for you, for an interval, somewhere very near, just around the corner. All is well.
Thank you for sharing that. That's definitely a great, like, exactly what we're talking about. I think you should share that on your Instagram.
I will.
Mm-hmm.
I will. You can follow me at askdrpete, and I will share that today, because Queen
I would like to show that to my mama.
She tells me what to do, Queen. That's like, this is what it means to be my stereo wife.
Look, and it's a proper way of thinking too, sir. It keeps people engaged inside the conversation, and on top of that, keeps motherfuckers from coming in and spamming out your goddamn chat, because they also are reducing the amount of messages that you can send.
Okay.
So I think from what their website said, it's 4 messages in a row. So I think this is my cap. So I'm gonna sit back down with my hands in my lap, send some more reactions, and let other people talk.
I love you for that, Gravy.
Love
Thanks
you.
for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're gonna miss your voice for a minute. Keep trying to send messages anyway.
Aries, just remember, I'm 30 minutes down the street, kid. If you need a friend or a smoking buddy, holler at Gravy, bro. I'm always the perfect shoulder to lean on. I'm a chubby dude. It means I'm warm. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
But for real, hit me up.
Yeah. Being able to lean on friends is no joke. And sometimes, like, that right friend, like particularly the one that can shut the fuck up. You know what I mean? Like, that good, like, present friend who doesn't, like, panic in the face of your emotions, Not every friend is that friend. Doesn't mean they're not good friends. But not every friend is the good lean on friend. You know what I mean?
And sometimes it's just people. I had a person that I utilized for like house. I don't like to title it that way, but it was kind of like house cleaning. And when I lost my sibling and got the news, just her presence in my home while I broke down was everything to me. Like it was
Yeah.
it was everything. She didn't do too much, you know what I mean? She wasn't over like, you know, oh my god, like she just let me scream and have like, it just felt good having her in my home. Like it just felt good just for someone to be present.
Yeah.
I don't know what that says or like what that means, but it just felt good to have someone there.
Yeah, it means a lot.
Mm-hmm.
You know, one of the things that they teach you, you know, like when you're training to be a psychologist, like one of the first things you learn is like, just because, like, it's how to sit with someone's sadness, how to sit with someone's pain, because it's your gut reaction to like try to either flight from it or you pick them up and do something or touch them. And like, you know, you can't just run over and hug somebody to feel better. And that's kind of the gut tells you to do that, you know. But there's also a part, you know, and I've come to learn to just be present and just, you know, calm your own emotions as you're supporting someone through it. Like, allow for yourself to just breathe and be present, and don't feel responsible for fixing a person. That's, let me tell you, and even as a psychologist, especially as a therapist, there are some therapists out there probably listening, but you feel compelled, like they've come to be healed by you. At least that's what their intention is. Like, I need to be healed. I fix this shit, you know. And I always regret to giving folks the bad news that, you know, I'm here to be with them, but this is something that is not healable by another person. This is a process that the person has to go through, and they will be changed by. They will be changed by.
This is Dr. Pete, and you've been tripping with Dr. Pete. For the full show, please listen to us live on stereo, or you can listen to playbacks on YouTube, Anchor, and Spotify. Thanks so much for tuning in. Until next time, huh? Peace.